Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood night. She comes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a wonderful Thursday. Let's see, what is it, April 28th? Yeah, Thursday, April 28th, just a couple days left in April. The LA Galaxy trying to finish off April undefeated. Chance to win against Real Salt Lake coming up would extend to a 3-game winning streak, something they haven't done in a very long time, actually, at least a couple of years. They also have a chance of staying undefeated in a month, expanding it to 6 games, 5 if you count the U.S. Open Cup. 5 if you don't want to count it if they extend it against RSL. So a lot of things coming up with that. We're going to talk about some of the food at the stadium. We're going to talk about, Concacaf Cup, right? The Concacaf Champions Cup. So way back in the day, we'll talk a little bit about that. And then the U.S. Open Cup and that game that is already sold out coming up against Cal United Strikers FC. So a lot to get to, a lot of things to do to help me do all that. He's back in the saddle. He's at home, though, so that means he's like further east than he normally we get you when you're west, but now you're you know what I mean. It's the Portuguese Hammer, Mr. Eric Vieira. Eric, how's it going, buddy?
I'm west, I'm east, I'm everywhere. I'm all over the place, and that's one thing, I've been in Texas for over a year now. Don't have a saddle, so I can't get back in the saddle without technically having a saddle. So, I'll have to get that sorted out. I got the cowboy hat, but I don't have the saddle yet.
Are you planning on purchasing a saddle?
Absolutely not. No.
Are you going to get like the wooden sawhorse and you're going to like ride it?
Well, funny enough, I live in it's a golf cart community, and so I've been trying, holding off on getting the golf cart. So I might get the golf cart before, and maybe I'll attach the saddle on top of the golf cart, or have it pulled. We'll figure something out.
That's the answer. I wanted you to know that as you were working that out in your head. I'm like, no, attaching the saddle to the golf cart is the correct answer in this particular case.
Very
times.
Good.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, I heard we're having a tough night, and we're up against NFL draft, and we're up against Chicharito streaming. So we're really have a tough audience. We're fighting for eyeballs here.
I like how all the people just left now because they were all like, wait a minute, Chicha's streaming? We're out of here. See you later. What's Chicha? He's like a professional streamer now, right?
He's on a team. I didn't bring that news, breaking news, but yeah, he's part of an official squad now. Yeah, he's Call of Duty is his poison, I believe. So fun times.
All right, good deal. Somebody said you need to get a mule first before you can get a saddle.
Fair
FYI.
enough.
Is your backyard big enough for a mule?
It is not big enough for a mule. It's barely big enough for my 2 wiener dogs and my Boston Terrier. So
gotcha. All right.
Maybe I'll get them a saddle.
Very good. Hey, a little $10 super chat to start it off from Jonathan out in, I think, Colorado. Jonathan, I think you got that right. Putting the money towards my pilot recurrent training for the COG private jet. Yeah, when we get the COG private jet, Jonathan's going to fly it for us. So no problem. I would like to fly, but I also like to drink. And drinking and flying don't mix, Eric. Just like drinking and driving don't mix. But even more so.
Sure.
There's like even stricter rules.
Autopilot? I feel like you're better, right? Aren't you better off being drunk on a plane than driving a car?
I mean...
Probably
in some ways.
There's a second pilot, right? I don't know. I'm not a professional, not in aviation, so do not take my advice. I just need to say that for legal reasons.
I don't want to let any secrets go here, but flying is easier than driving a car in many ways. All right, there's a lot of button pushing and sitting back and watching stuff happen in front of you. You're just supposed to be monitoring it, and so therefore you're supposed to be paying attention. So anyway,
yeah, I'd rather have my pilot with a few cocktails than someone who gets behind the wheel of a golf cart. Let's just put it that way.
Already had that problem in your neighborhood?
Absolutely. That's why I don't have one yet. Yeah, the wife's like, absolutely not.
Did you see what happened with everybody? All right, very good. LA Galaxy still coming off that 1-0 win over Nashville. I mean, we haven't talked to you about it. What did you think of the win over Nashville?
It was a 2022 LA Galaxy performance where there was, domination, walking away. It was a fully deserved 3 points. They deserved to win that game. But man, it was like pulling teeth. They just did not capitalize on their chances. And, it was great to see Dejan finally, kind of break the silence and get the stadium erupting. I think some people were talking early on in the chat before our show even started that they're still buzzing after that in the stadium. And I just take this opportunity to say, all the sellouts that the Galaxy have had this season, kudos to them for getting butts in the seats and for the crowd that's showing up. I mean, I have FOMO anyway, because obviously I'm not in the area. I can't go to games like I used to, but seeing it packed and seeing the crowd get into it and seeing the place erupt and seeing the Lars lift and everything happen. I mean, it really makes you want to be there and want to be a part of the magic. So kudos to the Galaxy for starting to get, that audience back in the building. So that aside, keeping the audience happy. I think the other big story and everyone's talking about it is Kevin Cabral. The Kevin Cabral Haters Club, gets more and more members every game. And it's one of those tough things because you and I have both said, you say it all the time, he's a frustrating player to watch. And the reason why he's frustrating is because he does things right. And it's like, okay, well, there's obviously talent there. So why can't he just, there's enough talent to control the ball, enough talent and speed to get in on goal, but he just doesn't have that part where he actually puts it in the back of the net. So that's the frustrating thing with it. If he was just a lunk and just couldn't run, if he was slow, didn't have handles and couldn't shoot the ball, then it's like, okay, let's just get this guy off the field, cut our losses. But he does well enough to where he gets the trust of Vanney and he looks like he can do something, but he's just not getting it done. It's just not good enough. And so I think the criticism that he's getting is justified. He booing in the stadium, that people have different opinions on that. I know you were saying that, you can vote with your voice. If you're unhappy, you can boo and you're welcome to yell as much as you like, but you can also break a player's spirit by doing that. So I see people going against that. Like, hey, he's a Galaxy player. We want him to do well. We shouldn't be booing our players in our home stadium. I understand that point of view, but to that same token, the criticism is warranted. You look at the stats that he's had. He's played 439 minutes. He played 8 games. He started 6 games, and he's been subbed off 6 times. So every game that he started, he's been subbed off. He's 22 years old, whereas Chicharito, he's had played 8 games. He's only been subbed off 3 times. So Chicharito, 33-year-old, is staying on the field longer. He's being trusted more. You look at the goals, obviously 0% conversion rate because he has no goals. He also has no assists. That's another thing that's concerning. Look at someone comparable, in a winger position or in that role. Douglas Costa, has more shots in fewer minutes and fewer games. When you look at the passing rate.
Kind of unfair to compare Douglas Costa to Kevin Cabral, though. Like, can you compare to Grandsir to Cabral? Because that's a more for like.
That's what I'm getting. The point I'm getting is Douglas Costa not afraid to shoot. He'll let it fly and he's getting it going. But then I think where you're getting at is the comp is Samuel Grandsir, who's only played 313 minutes, has a better passer rating. More technically doesn't have the goal because one of them was an own goal, but in goal creation and kind of key passes, he's really outplaying Cabral. And we've had that argument, hey, just swap Dejan. Dejan deserves the goal, swap him for Cabral. But the real swap is swapping Cabral for Grandsir, and that's the like for like. And
Greg Vanney has already really done that. And Greg Vanney has
the last couple games.
Yeah, the last couple games. The only reason that Cabral got the start in there is, listen, Dejan is never going to be, I think, a 90-minute starter, nor would he have started that game because Greg actually talked about it today. It was funny. It wasn't funny. He was asked the question, but it was good. Damian Calhoun asked the question.
It's a topic of conversation, yeah.
Yeah, and Greg knows it, and he's like, yeah, of course. And whenever you have, a player who scores a goal and then comes on and talks to the media and says, I deserve more than 5 minutes. He goes, I'm not happy, whole deal. And by the way, he wasn't disrespectful. Yeah, which it wasn't disrespectful. He's like, of course. He goes, I always want more minutes. The whole deal. And Greg said, yeah, everybody wants more minutes. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, it's the whole deal. He had some criticisms of Dejan that he put in there, but he goes, I was so happy for him. He goes, listen, Dejan got more minutes than he's ever gotten last week because he played almost 90 minutes or 70 minutes or something like that in the Open Cup game, and then he played last 13 minutes or whatever it was in the Nashville game. So like he's like he got more minutes than he ever did, and he showed that he should get more minutes. He goes, but the problem with Dejan, and I think you saw it more in the Open Cup than anything, the problem with Dejan is that, and the criticism that he leveled on him was that when the Galaxy have a lot of possession, Dejan tends to drift into positions that are not dangerous, right? And he basically said he needs to stay involved for 90 minutes if he's going to be in there. He needs to stay involved and find places that even when we have possession, that he's still dangerous, that he's still being able to do it. And when you look at the Nashville game, I mean, Greg came out and said it, one, after the Nashville game, and two, said it again today, which was, hey, listen, I was hesitant to put him into that game because we had so much possession, because I didn't want him to just go up and occupy a position up there and not be able to do anything with it. And he goes, and then when I did put him in, I put him in this like semi half space wide position, which wasn't a winger, but it wasn't a forward. It was sort of in between it. And he goes, and I figured that there might be enough space for him to get the ball and get the ball facing goal, and that would hurt. And he goes, and it worked out. He goes, but if Dejan's in the center of that formation and gets that same pass, he doesn't have that same angle and he can't do the same thing. He goes, it was about specific positioning within the Nashville game in order to get him to where he was.
Which, if you haven't heard that show, listening to Vanney explain that sub, and I know you went on about it, it was really kind of fascinating because, Dejan almost came on sooner. So to your point, Dejan, when the Galaxy has a lot of possession, he's not as dangerous. The Galaxy, when they have a lot of possession, run into this issue. We know each team that they play that sets up in a defensive front, the Galaxy are a counterattacking team that thinks they're a possession team. Whenever they have possession, it's actually when I'm nervous. It's good that they're dominating matches and they're holding it, but they just don't have that killer, that final run that's making it in on goal and punishing teams for sitting back and defending. That's what the Galaxy is missing. But when the Galaxy are able to counter, they are able to counter with speed, with Cabral, with Grandsir, and then when Edwards moved forward and when Araujo was able to overlap, that's when the Galaxy are truly dangerous. And so that's kind of the double-edged sword. Yeah, the Galaxy, great holding on to possession, but what do you do with that? And do you risk that giving up some of that possession in order to make yourself more dangerous on the counter? I don't think that's a great strategy either. You don't want to do that. If you're able to possess, then you want to possess. But it just gets a little bit tricky. I just got to shout out Jonathan again in the chat, saying Cabral is a taller Boateng, all speed, no finish.
There's some of that.
I could see that, but Boateng was not a DP, and that's what stings a lot of people right now.
He's also a young DP, and everybody wants to pretend like that doesn't matter, that it's still a DP, and I get it. But the Galaxy made that decision to get a young DP, and so that you have a guy who's not a finished product, right? And so you can look at other young DPs throughout the league and say, yeah, even with that, Cabral's still sort of falling a little bit behind of where some of those guys were, but it took people a little while as young DPs to sort of develop into the players they were. I think one of the comparisons that somebody was trying to put is like Brian Rodriguez, whenever he came in with LAFC and what he was trying to do, and eventually he did find some form and some success there. But I wouldn't say that it's been a massive success, right? Yeah. And it's certainly not along the terms of Vela whenever you're doing it. And so I don't think you're going to expect Kevin to be along the terms of Costa or Chicharito, but he does need to produce, and him getting kicked to the bench is fine. That's what should happen. He needs to fight for it, the whole deal. I want to get back to this, though. There's two things. One is you sort of talked about the conversions. You talked about Cabral's conversion rate, right, and the whole deal. But the Galaxy's conversion rate, and Kevin brought it up on Monday's show and sort of said, the Galaxy are like, one of the lowest teams in conversion rates. And I said, that probably has to do more with shot selection than anything else, and not necessarily conversion.
Correct.
The Galaxy are taking, and you can see it in XG, because if you look at the XG, the expected goals, right, for the LA Galaxy, I think they're at like 10 point something and they've scored 9, right? And so like it's real close. They basically, when they get good chances in areas, they are finishing their shots. They're not getting a lot of those. And the shots they are taking are from long range or from tight angles, for all the things that don't get you these high expected XG. So Greg talked about them not converting chances. And I was like, I'm in my mind, I'm like, if you look at the numbers, you really haven't created all that many really dangerous chances. And that's a problem too.
Yeah, and that goes back to the shots on target. And I think Kobe Jones said as much on the broadcast. I remember even calling this out. I said he was spot on. The Galaxy, when they pushed forward, and it feels like when they should take a shot, they make the extra pass. They Ted Lasso it. And when they, should pass, it's like they're taking a shot, booting it right into a defender's shin guard. And so it's almost like if they flip-flop it, if, we see some of those runs, we talked about it with Edwards, makes those cuts in the box and he just holds on to it for just a little bit too long. I think some of the players get a little bit too cute, and maybe there's even a little bit too much deferring to Chicharito and wanting to feed him the ball, and they're trying to give all those extra passes instead of taking an open look while it's there or while they're in the box, and then other opportunities where maybe they look like they're covered or there's three defenders in front of them, and then you see a player just let loose and let fly. So I think you're absolutely right. The chances, they are getting in the position to take the chances, but it doesn't seem like they're taking the right chances.
Right.
Which, to the Cabral point, and this is kind of counterintuitive, I don't think he'd be getting as much hate if he wasn't in the positions that he was putting himself in. So he's actually doing well enough to get himself hated, which is kind of a weird place to be in. No one's happy about that.
Christian Miles said that Cabral is routinely, quote unquote, the best player on the field, right? In terms of but he can't finish, right? And everybody was like, I don't know about best player on the field. The whole deal is like, well, if you look at his XG and his expected goals, he usually finishes with the highest expected, which again comes from the frustration. I get it, 100%. By the way, shout out to Joey for the $5 super chat. He says, thank you for keeping this FedEx driver entertained when he does his deliveries. And he says, this is my first time on a live show. So thank you, Joey. We appreciate that.
Welcome.
Thank you for delivering packages. FedEx visits my office at least once a day, so it's always nice to see them pulling up. I like it whenever the FedEx guys and the UPS guys pull up at the same time. Do they gun the engines at the corner? I see you. Are there fights between?
There has to be a softball league or a kickball league. They have to go out. You've seen the one where they race each other, right? I think it was Amazon and USPS. In the postal service, they show up at the same time and they're getting a foot race, and someone's Ring camera captured it. It's good times.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
I'm on TikTok way too much.
You and me both, buddy. You and me both. Let's go. I'm going to give you this. This is a lengthy answer from Greg Vanney. I think it's important, just again, so that way everybody can understand. A lot of times I feel like you guys aren't listening to Greg whenever he talks about Dejan or when he talks about Kevin or he talks about anybody else after games or in these media calls. And you have to understand that my opinions are shaped by listening to what Greg says. Now, you can disagree with Greg. I would say that anybody who disagrees with Greg in the Nashville game is a crazy, crazy person because he got the tactics 100% right. Even waiting to bring Dejan worked out for him very well, and he was worried about sort of where it was going to go. And I think that if they score that goal any earlier with Dejan where he is, they have a harder time on the defensive side, which is what he was worried about. Anthony, by the way, a $20 super chat. Thank you for that, Anthony. He says, first live show. Love you guys. 2019, 2020, 2021 season. I was living in Louisiana. Now I'm back in California and loving this LA Galaxy team. Do you see, Eric? Do you see how it works? You come back.
That's not out of the realm of possibility. There's
you come back, Eric.
Yeah, that's the end goal.
Okay.
Eventually.
I just
shout out to
say.
Anthony for joining us for another first timer. So once again, the hammer was wrong. I thought we were going to have a tough audience because we were fighting Chicharito in the NFL draft, and here we are.
It's five guys who've never listened before. Really, that's what it is. It's five guys who've never listened before. Yeah, absolutely. Here is Greg Vanney talking today, answering Damian Calhoun's question whenever he talked about getting Dejan more minutes and sort of what he can do there. So here's Greg's answer.
Yeah, I think it was an outstanding finish for Dejan. I think he should want more minutes. I hope he keeps pressing for more minutes and showing. This week he actually had more minutes than he had in any previous week because he got a midweek game for 75, 80 minutes in the Open Cup game. I think probably he took his opportunity. He's going to have more minutes because we have a lot of games coming up in the month of May, plus finding good times for him to get into these games that we have, finding ways for him to come on, and at times like we did this week in the image of certain games to get him on with Javier is also something that we can look at. Look, part of the reason it worked this weekend is we had so much possession in their half of the field, and they had so many guys deep in the back. They had 5 guys across the back line. We could afford to put another attacking player on in the image of the game. One of the things that we've talked about with Dejan is when we have a lot of possession, sometimes it's difficult for Dejan to find space and for him to get on the ball, and he tends to float around in areas where he's not dangerous. And so in this particular game, I was a little hesitant to put him on like up high because I think he's struggled to find opportunities. So we put him on in a position that was slightly wider, and he was almost like a winger who was tucked into a position where he could then face forward whenever he got the ball and face the goal. And so it ended up working out because the touch that he got that he finished, if he's playing central striker, I'm not sure if he gets to face the goal like that, whereas when he's coming from that slightly wider position in this scenario, he's now facing the goalie, one touches, finishes it to the back post. So it's trying to find, again, it's the moments, it's the scenario, but he's been great. He's working hard in training. His opportunities are going to continue to come. Striker's mentality is not to be patient. So I appreciate that he wants more minutes. I get that, and more minutes are going to be in his future for sure. There's, like I said, we have optimistically 7 games coming up in the month of May, along with the game this weekend. There's going to be lots of opportunity for everyone to make a difference and have an impact.
All right, there we go, little Greg Vanney. So, he's talking about 7 games. He's expecting, I think, 2 Open Cup games within that month, if I'm correct on all that, because it's 5. I think they have 5 in the month total, and then they're adding 6 already with Cal United Strikers, and then they go into a 7th if there's another one that pops up there. So yeah, it was super interesting. Yeah. By the way, Chester has the joke of the day so far. My frozen burrito got more minutes in the microwave than Dejan did. So very good, Chester. Thank you for that.
Good times.
I mean,
and then I'll also say, sorry, it's off the rails, which is what I do. But Darren K said MLS Super Draft is greater than the NFL Draft.
No, that's Darren.
One day,
Darren, check yourself, Darren.
Fun story. My connecting flight this week was in Vegas, and there's a bunch of people in football jerseys, and I'm like, why? It's April. Why are there people in football jerseys?
Right.
And then I realized, the NFL draft. But people got in football jerseys to fly to the draft to cheer on their team at the draft, and it just makes you, we are very niche with MLS and kind of the audience that you get. The fact that there are fans going just to the draft, it's kind of incredible. So maybe one day we're going to get to a point where fans are flying just to see the U.S. Open Cup draw or just to see the draft, but we're not there yet.
Well, again, to sort of keep going on what the chat room is saying, and the end, which is this person's screen name, the end says, I feel it's harsh to criticize Dejan for his positioning. He thrives on service, and our midfield doesn't always provide, so he obviously gets frustrated and tries to get involved. Yes and no. The whole deal here is, and I know fans always know best. Listen, it happens in all sports. Everybody wants to see, every baseball team wants to see the rookie play. Put the rookie in. He's better. Let's put the rookie in. The whole deal. It's the same in the NFL. You were just talking about the NFL.
Yep.
Put the backup quarterback in. He'll be better. You got to put the backup quarterback in, right? Like, they start chanting the backup's name and like, whole deal.
Well, look, Kevin Cabral, put in Grand Sir. Put in
Grand Sir. I mean, but that, hey, by the way, Grand Sir for sure. I mean, that's right now I'm starting Grand Sir. If you want to know my best 11, it's Grand Sir is out there. How you morph that formation into the latter stages of a game, depending on possession, depending on all these things. Listen, I think the Galaxy are going to have a good chance to have a lot of possession against RSL, which is going to be an interesting sort of way to take it because RSL's at home, but we'll get into it, but I'm not a big believer in what they've been doing lately. And so there's a chance that we could very well see the Galaxy in a very similar situation where they have a lot of possession. It's in the second half. They're trying to score. RSL's trying to play a low block. Now, RSL will definitely counterattack more than anybody that the Galaxy have played in recent days.
And RSL has burned us with that in the past as well.
Absolutely burned it. And so you see it. But what I'm saying is there's going to be chances Dejan's going to get playing time. Now, I guess I really upset some people. Well, I didn't upset people who actually listen to the podcast. The people who just go off of whenever I type up like an intro to it and say, oh, so you want Dejan to play more minutes? Well, then you better start pulling Chicharito off the field. By the way, 100% justified. That is a correct statement, which means that you should be winning games. You should be in games, and you should be pulling Chicharito in the 75th minute and letting Dejan get 15 minutes to clean it up.
But in a 0-0 draw or a 1-1 draw, do you want Chicharito out there or do you want Joveljic out there? I want Chicharito out there.
It depends.
I want Chicharito. He has that knack for finding the back of the net, and so
of course
that's why Chicharito hasn't been subbed out as much, and so that's where you run into that issue. And then just going back to Vanney defending his position, that's exactly what he's doing as well. Dejan said he wants more minutes. Vanney's not going to say, yeah, well, he's right. I should have given him more minutes. I messed up. No, Vanney's going to say there's a reason why. He's going to double down on his reasoning why he's not doing it. He's going to, he's not overly defensive about it. It wasn't like he was weird about it. But, of course, he's going to say, listen, he may want more minutes, but I'm the coach, and I'm going to tell you why not. So I don't think Vanney was doing that to be critical of Dejan. I think he was defending his stance as the head coach.
And you can criticize that, but the one thing that Vanney has that none of us have, not me, not you, not any of the fans over here, is watching Dejan train. And they train with two forwards up top on occasion to sort of see how it goes. And that Greg is like, no, because he's very hesitant to go to it. Mm-hmm. Even in this case, he tries to split Dejan out wider to get him out of the way. What is the biggest thing we've seen anytime those two have come in together is that they cover each other's runs and they operate in the same space. You can't do that, right? And so you may want Dejan to play as much, but if he can't figure out in training, and if they can't work in on in training, and they can't figure it out during those times, then you can't do that in a game. And see, Greg has the ability to look at that and say, no, because I know what I see in training, and that's not what it is. So for a while, Greg gets some leash on this to go ahead and play. And by the way, he used him perfectly again in Nashville. So again, what are you complaining about? We'll get Dejan more minutes. People right now are willing to sacrifice. They're willing to sacrifice defense for offense, right? That's a dangerous game to play when you're the LA Galaxy right now, because the defense has been the star of 2022 so far.
It's one of those, the grass is always greener on the other side. And the last point that we'll make with Joveljic is, someone mentioned it in the chat earlier, is when he got the minutes in the Open Cup game, he didn't exactly set the world on fire either against a USL opponent. And we had this conversation. I think we had it off air. I don't think I talked about it on the podcast, but I was, a little bit jealous. I want the Galaxy, when they play San Diego Loyal, when they play, California United Strikers FC, United City, when they play these teams, they should be able to put a bunch of goals on these teams because they're a tier above these teams. And so they didn't do that against San Diego Loyal, which Loyal, give them credit and give Landon Donovan and his squad, some credit there. But the Galaxy should be able to put more goals on there, and they weren't able to do that. So Dejan had an opportunity to impress and earn that opportunity, and he didn't. So again, small sample size.
He got bad service in that game. I'll say that. I was there. But yeah,
that's the roster. He didn't have a complement of starters giving them that service, which is totally fair. But I think over time we're going to be able to see he's going to get more opportunities, to your point.
And see, there's still people in the chat room apparently who don't understand that Cabral and Joveljic don't play the same position. All right, and this is the last time. They do not play the same position. You put them in and swap them for each other, you have a defensive issue. Greg talks about it. You can see it on the field. Joveljic does not play defense. The only reason that Greg brought him into this game was because they had so much possession, they weren't worried about the defensive side of things. That's why they do it. So whenever you say Cabral is his pick, no, Cabral isn't his pick right now. Grandsir is his pick. That's who's getting the starts in most of these big games, and the only reason they went to a two-forward sort of set system against Nashville was that they knew they were going to have a five-man back line. They knew what they saw against Chicago, and so they wanted the ability to try to break in behind that. Dejan gives you very little of that in a long space. Cabral can fill a little more of that in. So, yeah. That's
with how much Edwards moves forward as well, that's part of it as well. It's not like, okay, well, even if he doesn't play defense, the defender will cover. Well, Edwards is up there almost more often than Cabral or Grandsir. He's getting involved in the offense just as much. It's just he's hustling back to get there back in position.
This is called Go Listen to My Monday Show, because it's very well spelled out in that, as a matter of fact. Tactics, everything. We explain it all to you. We looked at different positioning. We looked at how Douglas Costa came into the center of that match and how Greg liked him a little bit in that cam role. And with Victor Vasquez out, more than likely again this weekend, they need a creativity force. The biggest problem I've seen, and then we're going to talk about this U.S. Open Cup game, the biggest problem I've seen with the LA Galaxy on the offensive side is their creativity side, which is when Vasquez isn't on the field, how do they create chances? And we haven't seen that very well from the Galaxy this year. And so I think getting Costa into that 10, into the center of the field, getting Alvarez and Costa on the field together, while I think there's some defensive issues with that, there's some ways to sort of work around that. That's better too, but there needs to be something more on the creativity side.
Yeah, and I think you see it with Chicharito's reactions. I think he was very animated with the service or lack of service that he was getting. He was pretty frustrated on that night in Nashville, and he took it out on Dave Romney, unfortunately. So Romney will send him the chiropractic bill after that. But I think Victor Vasquez and Douglas Costa, and then Efrain Alvarez. Those are the three players who can put those darting balls, who could put the through balls, put the ball in the precise spot to give Chicharito an opportunity to put it on goal. Yep. And that's what they're missing. Victor Vasquez does it all day long, again, but the injury concerns and age is just, he's not getting enough of those minutes. When Costa comes on the field, you see it. He's almost thinking faster than a lot of the other players, because he'll dish a ball or he'll try to do a 1-2, and then the other players are lost. They don't know where to run because he's already thinking 2 steps ahead, and the other players just aren't on the same level or in that same thought process as him. But Costa has that ability and knows where to put it. He doesn't connect as much, but he knows where the intent you could see is there. And that, I agree, that is what they're missing. Year 8 of wanting a cam, we still haven't figured it out.
And every time we talk, and every time we, like, Greg says that he needs a player, it's like, oh, defensive midfielder or a left back, and you're like,
a center back.
Where's that?
There's another center back, in the running.
I'm like, you have to eventually solve that problem. And Vasquez, this is it last year. I mean, maybe you can get him for one more year, but that is like in a sub role and not anything else. And you start to lose that.
And he's great when he's on the field and he's healthy and he knows exactly where to put that ball, and he's lethal with his service, but he just you can't count him to be on the field all the time.
It's funny because if you look at the Toronto years where Greg really did have some, like Giovinco, it was more of a 10 than anything else, right? Even Pozuelo was more of a 10 than he was in a lot of these ways because he always had a striker playing up above it. Well, I mean, you have the striker, you have Chicha, right? Chicha is the striker. So who's going to be that guy in the midfield? And right now it's Vasquez. And listen, Efrain needs to grow into that role, but he's not there yet. And so that's been, the biggest problem for a lot of this is the creativity wise. Creativity wise is the bigger problem for me. Again, I told expected goals to goals is pretty close. So the Galaxy are finishing chances, technically, that good chances that they get, the Galaxy are finishing. They're not always creating those good chances, and that's the bigger issue. Greg isn't worried about it, though. I sort of asked him about that today. I'll post the full media call up on the website and on YouTube here on Friday morning whenever I get around to it after done recording the show. But you can hear all of the answers and all the things that are sort of going there. But the creativity wise is the thing. Greg says, you know what? He goes, the offense will click. He goes, I'm not worried. We're getting in good spots. He goes, it's just not 100% there. He goes, I'd be more worried if we weren't getting in the good spots, right? Yeah, and it was like, okay.
Yeah, we were having this conversation a little bit earlier also, where I said preseason is actually the most fun because we don't know anything and it's all pure speculation, and so it's a lot of fun in that regard. I think that we've had enough of a sample size from the Galaxy. I think we know what this team wants to do. Like, we've set the baseline. We know what they can do defensively. We know offensively when it does click what they can do, and so I think you're right. If they weren't, if I didn't see the possibility there, I think there'd be cause for concern. But I see a lot of great flashes in there. When I watch this team, there's a lot of great moments. I'm not watching games and saying, where was the moment? Chicago being the one outlier there. But you look, where was the one moment? But even in Chicago, there was the offside goal. So there was something there also. So even that, I'm not being truthful when I say that. There's flashes in every single game that this Galaxy team has something. And so that's the exciting thing. We know the baseline. We know what this team can be. And now it's a matter of, are they going to live up to expectations or surpass them? Or are they going to, are they who we think they are?
It was funny because Greg was talking. I asked him just sort of reassess everything of where this team is after, the first 8 games and the whole deal. And I'll paraphrase this one, but I think he'll probably say it better. Is he goes, there are some things on this team that remind me of what great teams can be, right? Like, he's like, there are pieces here that flashes. I can put things. He goes, this team has some of the things that I think great teams have, right? And he goes, now it's about living up to that, sort of that ability. He's right. And that's why I sit here. If you go back and flip flop to what this team was last year at the same time, they were winning games, but it was like, wow, look at, they won again. They won again. They outkicked their coverage. They figured it out. They figured out a way to steal one back. But the whole deal was they weren't the better team, right? Mm-hmm. And if you go and look at most of the games this year, they've been the better team.
Correct.
And there were times when I think certainly over the last 4 or 5 years, where you've sat there and you've said the Galaxy are going to get played off the field. I don't believe that there's a team in Major League Soccer right now that will play the LA Galaxy off the field. Just that turn of psychology, the psychological effect that has should be something to fans that you should be noticing that. I feel like my job on this show anymore, Eric, is just to provide remembrance of the progress that has already been made in what they're doing.
Yeah. And that was one of those things I was hesitant of. I said there weren't a lot of roster changes. And I was like, so you have to, hope that there's some gelling and that they know each other better, and that's going to make up for it, because roster wise, I didn't think this team made a big enough of a leap. But You see it in the way that they're playing. You're right. There's no one in the league that I think the Galaxy are scared to play. I would say the only team that maybe makes you feel that way would be like a Seattle. But even we saw what happened when they went away to Seattle. They hung in there. They were in that game.
They played better than Seattle. They just, it was 3 set piece goals.
so they weren't totally outclassed there. So I don't think there is a team that looks like they're a cut above the LA Galaxy, which last year we said, well, maybe they can steal a point. Maybe if they counterattack, if they get lucky, they get the bounces. Maybe I don't see that this year, which is a credit to Greg Vanney and the development of the players from year to year, because the roster changes weren't, a huge leap.
Right.
So you got to give the players credit for figuring each other out.
I want to, because you just said that, okay, so let's go and take a look at some of these games that are coming up. First of all, the game at RSL. Are you afraid of RSL? No, you shouldn't be.
They're kind of sneaky. They're not as bad as their record looks.
They are. Okay, so then you're going to go to Austin. Now, Austin's been on a tear, right? Everybody's watched them. They score a ton of goals. They've been doing a ton of good things, and I don't believe them for 1 second, and I'm not worried about the LA Galaxy going there. I'm not saying they're going to win that game, right? But there's no way that Austin can outplay the LA Galaxy in terms of, if the Galaxy are playing well, the Galaxy will be in that game.
Well,
right?
They outplayed the Galaxy last season in
they
Austin.
did.
And so, but you just hope that they have the ability to. But you're right. I think they can go into Austin. You've seen cracks in Austin. Austin, give them credit. They're playing out of their minds. But you see, they're beatable.
So Dallas, because it's mostly Texas teams in May. Dallas.
Notice that.
Dallas at home. No, I'm not scared of Dallas at home. I don't think the Galaxy will be scared of them. Minnesota.
So I'm not
Minnesota on the road.
I'm not being a homer.
Right.
Dallas has taken a step up, I think.
Stop it.
I think they're better than.
Stop it.
This is not your mom's Dallas. I'm not saying that they're not. The Galaxy should be able to hang with them. I agree, 100%. But this is not. They're not a run over team. I feel better about the Galaxy over Austin than I do over Dallas.
I would feel more worried about the Minnesota game that's away than I would about the Dallas game that's at home.
True.
All right.
Okay.
And then
there's levels to this. You're right.
Yes.
I'll agree with you there.
Okay. Houston at home. They should handle business.
Should be a W.
Austin at home should be a W.
Correct.
So you sit here and say, okay, now do that same thing last year, and you're like, well, that might be a draw. I mean, there's some games in here that you could say, maybe that's a draw just because it's on the road, or maybe that's a draw just because blah, 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 the whole deal. Other than that, I think you should feel pretty confident that the LA Galaxy are more than capable of beating every team on this list. And that's not something you could say last year.
Or you look at it from like a points perspective. There's 6 games there. 18 points. Say 12 points. Is that
12,
unreasonable?
15?
That's a successful month. 12 out of 18. So I could totally see that with the schedule that you have on the screen or had on the screen.
John says John gave us a $7.14 super chat. Is that a 714 reference?
I think it might. Yeah. Shout out to Anaheim.
Yeah.
Or no, it's number 7, number 14. That's a Robbie Keane.
Oh, okay, that's a Robbie Keane. Oh, there you go, number 7. Okay, if the Keno downtown LA print is sitting in a basement, I mean, come on, after 2 years, time to sell. No, it's not going anywhere, John.
It's in your office.
It's in my office.
I see it every.
I see it every day. I see it every day. Nope, not going to happen. Anyway, that's what it is. Let's get to the U.S. Open Cup game. Now, this game coming up on May 11th. It is at the Orange County Great Park, which I think they call it Soccer Champions Stadium. Is the name of the stadium down there. Now, I was able to reach out to Cal United Strikers FC before the tickets went on sale and sort of understood how it was going to go down, although it went down not how they told me, but I understand. Whatever they did, that's fine. Basically, they started releasing tickets yesterday on Wednesday early in the morning, and then they would shut the link. And they would let the link stay open for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then they would shut it down. And then they would wait till noon, and then they opened it for 20 or 30 minutes, and they'd shut it down.
Yeah, there's some home cooking probably. You have a big MLS club, coming to your stadium. If you want to cater to the people who are close in the club, that seems like a strategy that you might follow to try to get tickets on the way. But shout out to the Discord. If you weren't on the Discord, you may have missed out on some of those opportunities. I know there's some people who were had their radar up and were able to snag some tickets with some of those openings.
Yeah. We were able to, I think, shout out all the different windows on these things this morning. So anyway, tickets are sold out. That was it. There's a little less than 5,000 is what I was told. They're asking that LA Galaxy fans sit on the east side, by the way. That's all general admission tickets, just letting you know. GA, it's all GA, so you can go and you can sit anywhere you want. But they're asking that all the Galaxy fans come and sit on the east side.
Yeah, I think that's very cute that they think that there's only going to be enough Galaxy fans to sit on one side.
Oh, it'll eventually fill in. I think the whole idea is that they're worried. Listen, I was talking to somebody over at the team, and he was saying, he goes, normally, like, in some games we've touched almost 2,000 people. He goes, we're going to have close to 5,000, probably about 5,000 people there. He goes, we're going to do our best to handle all that, but clearly it's going to be a lot. That's double what our normal sort of thing is. So everybody have some patience here, and let's go. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say everybody has some patience. They really could have jacked up the ticket prices. And I asked him, I said, well, why don't you guys, I go, how much are tickets? And he says, they're all $20. That's it. He goes, we're not going to do anything. Now, I said, listen, they could have jacked up the ticket prices. And somebody said, well, their last Open Cup game, they just charged $12. Well, the product on the field is going to increase by a serious amount here. So I think the $8 is no more sort of,
$20 is pretty solid for the intimate environment like that. That's not bad. And to the point of, they're trying to kind of control things with fan bases and things like that. We've talked about what's being dubbed like the Royal Rumble over at SoFi with all the teams, with LAFC and Chivas and Club America. This is not that. This is not fan bases coming in with their brass knuckles ready to go at it. Galaxy fans are not going to go in there to cause a ruckus. And
no.
I don't imagine that the California United Strikers FC Ultras are going to be out for blood that night. I think we'll be okay. Should be a good evening.
I think everybody's going to have a really fun night. I think it's going to be a good time. That soccer stadium is so much fun.
Yeah.
Under the big orange balloon. That soccer stadium's just small and intimate and so much fun to go to. And the Galaxy played San Jose there at one point. That was a ton of fun if you went to that game. So this is a good time, and I think everybody should expect that. I think it's really cool. I was told that the owners of Cal United Strikers FC are very philanthropic in terms of what they're trying to do with the team, and so they're like, we're not going to jack up the ticket prices on our own supporters or do any or try to like hold tickets out so the Galaxy can't come down and like visit. They're like, no, we want this. We can't wait for you guys to come down. That was basically it.
That kind of goes. It's against everything that is, a NISA club or one of those lower division clubs. It's accessible. It's hometown. It's, that's what it's all about. And they honored that by keeping the game, what it is.
Now, whenever we go from being philanthropic to being ridiculous, let's talk about some of the things that got highlighted. There was a footy, is it Footy Scran? I think it's at Footy Scran. Yeah. Tweeted out a picture of the Korean fried chicken and waffle fries at the LA Galaxy. Now, looks delicious. I haven't had it. Looks delicious. Looks like something that I would like. Chicken, all sorts of sauce on there, some onions and stuff like that, and then there's waffle fries underneath it. And then they put the price next to it, and they put the price at $28. Now, the LA Galaxy retweeted this, apparently, thinking that was something worthy of being retweeted. I was actually, I'm not shocked and I'm not surprised. We've talked about what sort of goes on in the stadium and how those prices get driven up. We talked about the pupusas that I love. Where's my hat? I should put on my hat. We talked about the pupusas that I love with AFJA and just everything that they're doing and trying to do. And I've told you that, hey, those pupusas are $8.50. A piece, and there's no way in any world that a pupusa should be $8.50. But we know that Levy Restaurants is in charge of everything there, and they set the pricing for everything. So everything that gets said in there is an inflated, ridiculous price. And they know that you're captive. They know that they don't have to do much in order to do it. Yeah. The quality has never been particularly good in many of these places. Mm-hmm. Now that looks really good. I hope it is that good, Eric. But yeah.
From what I understand, it is, as good as advertised. It is delicious from what people are saying. But at $28, that is a bit rough, for what you're getting there. And I'm with you. And that's basically it. They have a captive audience. Where else are you going to get a beer? Where else are you going to get a snack? They have you, and they know they have you, and that's why they're charging the premium on that. So it is what it is. And so if you look at some of the replies, It's basically what this Footy Scrans account. It's food. It's mostly Europe and English clubs that you see it. But when you looked at the replies, because it has a lot of English followers, it's just a lot of send to jail, criminal, absolutely criminal that they're charging these prices. And so it's kind of funny. This is definitely, like I was saying, with the NISA and the lower division teams. The whole idea is accessibility and affordability, so everyone can come and enjoy. And this is the complete antithesis of that when we talk about our cookie buckets and the
our $27 cookie buckets or $22 or whatever
our $18 Modelos and everything. It's like, okay, it is kind of criminal. And I think one of the things that stood out the most is one of the replies said, this costs more than the ticket to the game. And when you look at the duo pack, this costs more than 2 games to get into the stadium. So it's kind of incredible. You can get into the game at a reasonable price, but if you want to eat inside the game, you're gonna be in trouble. And you're right, the quality, unfortunately, as much as I love going to Dignity Health Sports Park, I've told you, on a Saturday night when the sun's going down, nothing better than a soccer game when the weather's great at night, in Carson at the Dignity Health Sports Park. But the food is you don't go for the food. You're not going for fine dining at the stadium. And so that's where they let you down. But from what I understand, this is if you have the money, that this is actually a decent meal. And as far as the Galaxy replying, I think it's it's a hot topic. It's trending right now, the Footy Scrans account. So I think that's why they did it. I don't think it's because they were proud of it. I think they're just, hey, we got mentioned by this account that's kind of having a moment right now.
By the way, Feel the Berm says it's good for 2 people. So I guess if it's $14 per person, you're getting closer. I mean, listen, I go to McDonald's and it's $12 anymore. When did that happen, by the way? When did like going to McDonald's and getting some, like chicken nuggets and some French fries become $12? And so
now I don't like this because now we're turning into the old guys.
Yeah, I am old.
Yeah,
I am
because like my grandpa used to give me $5 and I used to go and eat like a king at McDonald's. And now I can get a maybe an ice cream cone if I'm lucky, with that $5. So. Yeah, but we're not going to be those guys.
One of our listeners hit us up on Facebook. Kirk says, listener question, can you discuss the history behind this? And he shows a picture of Kobe Jones, of the 2000 LA Galaxy team at the Rose Bowl. And Kobe Jones had tweeted out and said, last time MLS club won CONCACAF, it's MLS history. And he's showing basically this picture, which is the LA Galaxy as CONCACAF champions. Now, Kirk asked us for just a brief history lesson on this. He goes, was the format different? Why do people not consider this the first time MLS won CONCACAF? Am I wrong, or are most people saying Seattle will be the first team to do it? I'll take my answer off the air. I always like that. First time, long time. I'll take my answer off the air. So we were talking about this beforehand. It was a different format. Eric, why don't you tell people, because you looked it up again, and I knew the general story, but you had a little more specifics on it.
I had to confirm. I wasn't sure if it was 2000 or 2001, but it was 2000, the 2000 CONCACAF Champions Cup. So they won that iteration of the competition. So what you'll hear the talking heads say now is that no MLS team has won the CONCACAF Champions League, and that is correct because that version of the competition, as it's been going, an MLS team has not won. But that doesn't mean that there hasn't been previous competitions of CONCACAF teams that play each other and champions that play each other. The Galaxy have won a previous version of that competition. So why this is a bit of a rub is you see this happen in Europe as well. There's the UEFA Champions League right now. And so you can say how many teams have won the UEFA Champions League. And then so you might not count some of these more historic clubs. And I know this happens like in Portugal as well. Like Benfica has some European championships. They haven't technically won Champions League, but they're not going to say that they haven't won Europe. They have won Europe. When Eusebio was there, in the 60s, they're going to say they have a European championship, even though they technically haven't won the UEFA Champions League. So that's exactly what's happening here. An MLS team has not won the quote unquote CONCACAF Champions League, but they have won the CONCACAF, Champions Cup, which was a previous iteration of the tournament. Now, to be fair, it was a little bit of a different tournament format.
Way different.
Only 8 teams. They were all played. All the games were played in Los Angeles. When you look at the teams that the Galaxy beat, they beat Real España of Honduras. They beat DC United, and then they beat Olimpia of Honduras in the final. So they didn't even play a Mexican opponent. Pachuca and Toluca were both in that tournament. You always say that.
Alajuelense.
Yeah, yes. You practiced that one.
I did.
From Costa Rica, they were in the tournament as well. So only 8 teams, a little bit of a different format, but nonetheless, you can only play who's in front of you. Some of those games were played at Cal State Fullerton, Titan Stadium there, and then the final, of course, at the Rose Bowl and that's where you see that photo that's up on the screen there. So a little bit of history lesson. An MLS team has not won CONCACAF Champions League, but they have won a CONCACAF Champions competition.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things. I mean, when you look at it, the competition is a lot more now. It's a real tournament now. Certainly with the different legs and sort of how it goes, and it never hits right in MLS, but Seattle has a chance. And listen, it looked like a Mexican team finally got CONCACAF, and so hey, all interesting. It's all tied up. It'll go back to Seattle, and they'll get a chance to play for it. I mean, coin flip now, and that's one of the better positions that clubs have been in. Remember, RSL almost won it. They were in a final, and that was, what was that, 2009 or something like that?
Sounds about right, yeah.
Or 2010, 2011, somewhere in there, whenever the Galaxy were winning championships, but not,
so we don't talk
not
about
doing
those
well
years. Yeah,
in,
we don't
in
talk
the
about
CCL.
the lost RSL, yeah.
So anyway, just really interesting times for all of that. When we look at the standings, obviously the LA Galaxy doing well. In the Eastern Conference, Philadelphia is top there. Philadelphia, New York, Orlando, Atlanta. Those are your top 4 teams. And if we head over to the Western Conference, we can see that it's LAFC, Austin, LA, and Dallas. Galaxy will play Dallas. Galaxy will play Houston. Galaxy will play Austin. Galaxy will play Minnesota. All those teams are above the line right now. And so it's going to be an interesting next 6 or 7 games for the LA Galaxy as they get ready to go. So we look at Supporters Shield standings. Galaxy are in 4th, just behind Philadelphia. LAFC is number 1, 19 points. Now, again, if LAFC is the best team in the league, which you can look at some of the teams that they've played so far and say maybe they haven't played a very strict schedule so far. That'll come eventually. They'll finally settle out, but I don't think they have to play Chicago like in Chicago. So there's a draw that definitely would have been a draw because nobody scores on Chicago because they put 27 people in front of the net and the grass is 7 inches long.
That was the revelation for me, is the grass. I was like, it's actually a smart move. The old Notre Dame move. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And so you do that, but then you say, okay, head to head, the LA Galaxy were able to outdo quote unquote the best team in Major League Soccer. So keep that in mind as it goes, and as we're trying to form your opinion of the LA Galaxy and sort of where they stand in this league. Coming up, LA Galaxy versus Real Salt Lake. This game is a 12:30 p.m. Start time on TV. It's Univision and, of course, TUDN and Twitter, so you can find it in a bunch of different places there, which is good because I'll be in Colorado, and I was worried I was going to get blocked out of the game because Colorado is technically RSL's territory as well. And so it's like Root Sports.
Think about that, yeah.
Yeah, and so I can get blocked. I've had that happen before, where you could get blocked for the game. But anyway, that's where you can find it. Kickoff time is 12:50, so 20-minute lead-in on this particular one. So April 30th coming up on Saturday. Just to give you an idea of what the weather is going to look like. It's supposed to be on Saturday, a low of 45, a high of 67. It's supposed to rain on Friday. It's supposed to rain on Sunday. It's not supposed to rain on Saturday. So I think it actually should be really sort of mild weather for what you'd expect from it. Closer to the 45, obviously, whenever you're getting into the night. But it's not at the night. It's 12:30, so it's going to be closer to the 67. So, yeah, even that.
Yeah, but still. So you hit him with a yeah, but still.
Yeah, but still. So that's an interesting sort of take on that as well. We've talked about RSL. We've sort of talked about a little bit about where they sit. 3-2-4, 13 points. They're 2-0-1 at home. They've only played 3 games at home, Eric. Mm-hmm. So that's something to keep in mind whenever you look at their overall record, because they're 1-2-3 on the road. 7 points from home games, 6 points from away games, but they played 6 away games and only 3 home games. So that sort of gives you an idea. Yeah. The Galaxy are 23-8-12 against them right now, and RSL is 6th in the Western Conference, 9th in the Supporters Shield.
And that's why I was saying they're a little bit sneakier than how they look. Because you look at the schedule and say, man, they're winless in 5, 6 if you include the U.S. Open Cup. They lost to the Northern Colorado Hailstorm. So it's like, man, RSL's in bad shape. But
somebody said the Hailstorm has like less than 10 games played together professionally. Yes. Yeah.
So you think, okay, well, this should be an easy win. But then you look at their record. It's like, well, they really only have 2 losses. They have a bunch of draws. They have wins earlier on in the season. So maybe this isn't an easy a game as it looks on paper. A win puts them level with the LA Galaxy on points. So it's just one of those things. There's not a big a chasm between the LA Galaxy and RSL on the standings.
On the standings, yeah.
But when you look at their roster, you look at the ability. I think the Galaxy look to be the better team. It's just going to be a matter of can they go away with the altitude, because that's always a concern when you head there, and is that going to be a factor, or are they going to be able to handle their business?
Let's see. The the factors that come into this, right? This game is a weird one, and it's always a weird one. First of all, we know RSL field, very hard. Ball bounces like it's on turf.
Yeah.
Then you're at altitude as well, and so that's an issue. So your lungs are going to be burning after about 40 minutes playing that game. You're going to be dead playing in that. So there's a lot of things that come in to make these games always more difficult. And as we remember what happened last year, Anderson Julio and his nice little strike at the death in order to take 2 points away from the LA Galaxy, because basically, or a point, because I think the Galaxy were going to get a draw, and it was like, okay, you got to draw the whole deal, and then Anderson Julio scores from some ridiculous that little pop up over the head. It was such a great finish.
And we really could have used that point at the end of the season.
Yeah, that one could have been it. That one could have been it. But then RSL probably shouldn't have cheated in their last game too. Also so true. Hey referees, don't worry about it. You guys are great. Zach McMath has been starting all their games in goal with Ochoa injured, so that's sort of one of those interesting things. Krylak, who I think on this roster as it sits, probably their best player, is questionable right now. Going against the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, he hasn't seen as many minutes because that's a player that normally you would have circled when you're playing RSL. It's like, okay, let's keep an eye on Krylak, but he hasn't had the minutes, and so he's not 100%. So that's a positive thing for the LA Galaxy. Another area of concern, Bobby Wood up front. The only positive thing, this isn't 2015, so you don't have to worry about that Bobby Wood. It's the Bobby Wood of 2022. And then you look at another one of their top scorers is Tate Schmidt. You a Tate Schmidt fan?
Yeah, who?
Tate Schmidt. They're one of their top scorers. So it's one of those things. If you didn't know who that was, that's one of their top scorers. So again, when you look at the roster, and you look at the Galaxy's roster, it's like, okay, there's a chasm there. Maybe it's not in the standings, but the Galaxy, this is a beatable team for the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, it
with
no
disrespect to Tate Schmidt.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he has a brother, but I don't give two Schmidts about if they do or not.
Oh, nice.
That was rehearsed.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Bobby Wood has 2 goals. Tate Schmidt has 2 goals. So you're not talking about guys who are setting the league on fire.
Yeah.
The assist leader are Chang and Ruiz in there, and they have 2 assists each. So again, not setting the league on fire. Krylak, Justin Miram. There's some guys and there's some names on here where you're still like, I know those guys.
They're Galaxy killers. Justin Miram.
Yeah, Rusnak, by the way, I thought for sure the Seattle would loan him back to RSL for this game, but so far hasn't happened yet. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. The last win that RSL had was against Nashville. The last win the LA Galaxy had was against Nashville. Just RSL's win came in another month. Yeah. Basically, they haven't won since that. I was at 319. Yeah, I think it's 319. Yeah, 319 and a 2-1 win. They scored early on a corner kick versus Nashville, so they do have that ability. I'm not saying that they are a large team. They are not. And so I think they're vulnerable on the reverse on set pieces. I think the Galaxy have the ability to break them down. I think the big bodies with Derek Williams and Sega Coulibaly are going to cause problems for them down the middle. Absolutely. Bobby Wood is not a big dude. So if you're going to put him up there and try to bang bodies against Derek Williams and Sega Coulibaly, they should be able to handle that, no problem. Julian Araujo, you would expect, would be somebody who's good in this game, just being able to get up on the wings. I think the Galaxy are going to be able to have a lot of possession. I think they're going to have to be careful in transitions.
I was going to say this is exactly the same issue that we've had, and that's actually the part that makes me nervous. I feel like the Galaxy should be able to take it to RSL, but then you think if it's another one of those games like Nashville, like Chicago, like Orlando, where they have a lot of possession and RSL just kind of sits back and waits for the counter, then the Galaxy, may struggle a little bit, especially the longer the game went on, at home versus Nashville. The crowd was willing them there. They didn't have altitude. They didn't have a tough surface. So it was in their favor, to keep attacking and pressing. But the longer it goes on at RSL, not at home, not on a great surface, at altitude, then it's going to be harder and harder. So I think an early start is going to be crucial for the Galaxy in this game.
Yeah, and listen, it has been crucial for them all this year. I think when RSL scores first, that they're able to dictate a lot of what they do. It's like any team that you score first, it changes things. Playing in a 4-2-3-1, which having 6 sort of dedicated stoppers in there, it's something. It's something to have to break down. It's something to have to try to go through the center of the field. But the Galaxy are actually better going around the wings anyway. So whenever you look at Herrera and Brody sort of on the outside wings, and listen, they did well against Portland. Greg Vanney sort of mentioned it today, and we'll play that audio here in just a second. But Greg was sort of saying, listen, he goes, after the game against Portland, he goes, they were satisfied. Like you could tell RSL was like, we did what we came to do. Yeah. And of course, this was after, like you said, losing to New York City 6-0
Yeah.
on that postage stamp of a field. What a horrible game that was. And then losing the U.S. Open Cup game, and then they went away to Portland, and they sort of stopped the bleeding. So there was confidence gained in that 0-0 draw against Portland. Vanney was sort of saying, but how much confidence? And I think that's an interesting sort of take to hear from a coach on this.
Yeah, I think it's almost like we got them right where we want them, because then, okay, the 6-0 loss, I don't care what the surface is like. When you have a 6-0 loss, there's something wrong with the team chemistry or the player. There's something off. Losing to, the Northern Colorado hailstorm, that's a problem as well. And you think, oh, maybe they got a little bit of their mojo back. So maybe they get this false confidence. So I think that's what I understand Greg Vanney's interpretation is that, okay, they think that they're good, but they're still completely full of holes, and that's where you attack them and rip them apart.
They are not a consistent team. Here's Greg Vanney talking about RSL, so let's hear the coach's preview.
I think they're a dangerous team. Again, I mean, they came off of a really difficult 2 results last week, and then they went on the road and were a little more conservative, a little more compact. They allowed Portland more of the ball, which is a strategy that teams use against Portland at times. They used it. They had a great chance at the end to come away 1-0. They didn't. But I felt like when I saw their reaction at the end of the game, they got what they wanted, which was they didn't give up anything, and they felt like they protected themselves pretty well coming off of a stretch in which they hadn't done so well at doing that. So, the question is, how much confidence did they get out of this last game? How expansive do they feel like they want to be at home? It's always a difficult place to play no matter what. So how aggressive will they be versus, how will they sit in a mid-low block? These kinds of things are things we have to read as the game is happening, but they have players who can make plays, and they're going to always have a strong mentality to compete. That's Pablo's MO he gets the guys ready to work, ready to compete, difficult to play against. If some of the things happen or don't happen on the attacking side, they'll still be difficult to play against. So we've got to take the game as it comes to us and try to put it in our vision, but we've got to be able to also protect ourselves and manage the game appropriately in Salt Lake, which is always a challenge.
All right, there we go. Eric, did you have time for 538? Did you look that up?
I did.
Okay.
I was just trying to double check to see if Pablo Mastroeni, he hasn't had the mustache for a while. He used to have a top tier mustache. So that was the research that I was doing while we were listening to the Vanney call. But
I was going to say I'm not a huge fan of Pablo's, by the way. I think that he usually has one good year out of a team and then he kills it. And I think he had a good year last year, and he's killed it again. And so we'll see if that plays out. And knowing playing against the Galaxy, RSL usually shows up against LA. So we'll see how that goes. What does 538 say?
538 has this one pretty even. It has RSL with a 37% chance to win, the LA Galaxy with a 35% chance to win, and then a 28% chance for a draw. So when you look at the full slate of MLS matches, that's what I like to do. The Galaxy actually have the 3rd best road odds. They're only Austin at Houston has a higher percentage, and then the Red Bulls at Chicago have a higher percentage. But other than that, there's no other away team that's as close to the LA Galaxy, according to 538. So to me, I looked at it as a good sign. You look at Bovada as well. You have RSL at plus 160, the LA Galaxy at plus 175. So pretty close.
Really even. Yeah,
pretty close. Yeah. It's pretty much a pick 'em. They do expect one of them to win. A draw is plus 220. So they're not expecting a draw. But it's pretty even. It's just pick who's going to end up successful on the night. And I tend to agree. I think if you were betting on it, I could see it going either way. But I would take the odds on the Galaxy, even though RSL are just slight favorites on 538 and the betting sites. That's what's giving them the edge.
Is that they're at home. That's the only thing that's giving them the edge. If this gets played neutral field, the Galaxy are favorites. If this gets played at home, the Galaxy are heavy favorites, right? And so you look at those and sort of take those in. Listen, I mean, I want to see this Galaxy team do the things they're supposed to do, which is get into this game, control the match, create chances, and finish goals, and be clinical about it and not waste energy. You want to waste energy at altitude, you're going to have problems. And so this is a chance for Greg to use his bench with 5 changes. He's able to do that. That means Joveljic can come in and play. That means that Cabral comes off the bench and can play as well. That means that you can get guys in there possibly like Sasha Kleshtin into the second half. You can really do some things that I think could be beneficial down the road for this LA Galaxy team. Remember, they're 2 away games now, right? So you're going to go on the road to RSL, on the road to Austin, home for that U.S. Open Cup game, and then another home game after that. I forget
Dallas.
who.
Dallas.
That's the Dallas game.
Yeah, so I was going to say, Darren brought up the point that I was actually looking to bring up with RSL is the Galaxy, and we were talking about what's the jump that they've made from the last couple seasons to this season. And I think the Galaxy in recent years, they've shown up for a game or two, and then they play a quote unquote lower level opponent, and they play down to their level and let the other team either win the game or they just don't put away their chances against that team. I think if the Galaxy are for real, and I think we've had enough kind of a sample size to see, okay, we kind of know what the Galaxy are trying to do. If they are going to be for real this season, then they have to win the games against the teams that are struggling and the teams that are below them. And so I think this is where we're going to find out. A road game against a team that is beatable, can they get the job done? Because I think that's where you're going to, when we talk about making the playoffs and making a run, it's beating the teams that you're supposed to be, and then the teams where you're close, or the higher ranked teams, if you keep it close and you make it respectable, you can live with that. But the teams that you should be, that's where you kind of you make your bread and butter, and where you make your money, or whatever phrase you want to use for that. But I think this is one of the early tests for the LA Galaxy. Can they beat a team that's beatable on the road? I think they can. I can see them walking away victorious from this game.
By the way, I love a point here as well, because it closes out a month in which they really had a successful. Yes, I agree with the 3 points, but if you're in control of the match, you're doing everything, and maybe things just aren't going your way towards the end of that, and you just decide to fold up shop and be like, last 10 minutes we're playing for the draw, but so the point is more important than trying to win that game.
Yeah,
I know.
You're right in the scheme
overall,
of things,
in the grand scheme of things.
Over time, let's wrap it up. We've played 80 minutes. We weren't able to find our goal. Let's protect this 1 point and get out of Dodge. But if this team is beatable, I just think these are the games that the greats, when you think about the good teams and the teams that make runs, they beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. And I think the Galaxy on paper should be able to beat this team.
It seems that way. The Galaxy have won 3 of their last 4 matches, all in the upper division there, keeping clean sheets in each of the last 2. The Galaxy haven't kept 3 straight clean sheets in MLS play in almost 6 years, since doing it in July of 2016 against Vancouver, Seattle, and Houston. I thought that was an interesting one. The other one is that the Galaxy kept their 2nd straight clean sheet in their win over Nashville on Saturday, and their 4th overall this season. The Galaxy have allowed 6 goals this season, with only 3 teams allowing fewer, and just one of those, has been from open play. The fewest open play goals allowed in MLS this season. That's something that's
impressive.
I hope that I meant to share this. And I don't know I'm sure it came across in one of the calls that I published, but you never know 100% if that's where it is. But there's little things like this that Galaxy players start to hang their hats on, right? And so there's something like, well, we're keeping clean sheets. Well, we've only allowed 1 goal from the run of play. And then it becomes a thing. We're not allowing a goal from the run of play. Yeah. Like, it's not happening. And, even set pieces, like, we're going to be better on set pieces than they have been, right? So there's been a whole bunch of things that have sort of happened that they're hanging their head on. I was talking to Raheem Edwards, and I said, Raheem, this was after he got his 5th assist, right? I said, you got your 5th assist tonight. And he goes, oh, did they count that as an assist? And I'm
nice.
I'm like, yeah. I go, you passed it in, and then it came in through. And I go, so yeah, you're going to get the hockey assist on it, the second one. And he goes, you think so? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, yeah. And he was like pumped that he got the 5th assist. Like, he wants to be the league leader in assists. He wants to be that guy. These are the little things, again, that you start to hang your hat on, that you start to project out. And it's like, Chicharito pretends like he doesn't have individual goals. And I think on the whole, he's a very big team player. But that he likes being at the top of the Golden Boot race.
Chicharito, I love the guy. He's a goddamn liar. He's a great politician, and he says exactly what he's supposed to say, but he wants to score in every game. You see it with the frustration. You see it when he maybe takes a shot when he should pass. That's what good strikers do. He wants to win the Golden Boot. He wants to be the league leader. But of course, he knows how to interview. He knows how to say the right thing. But he's lying to all of us through his teeth when he says he doesn't have those individual goals.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Again, just a shout out the LA Galaxy going to Real Salt Lake game at Rio Tinto Stadium. It's on Univision, TUDNA, and Twitter. April 30th, 2022, 12:30 p.m. is TV time. 12:50 p.m. is your kickoff time. So a 20-minute lead in on all that stuff. All right. Do you want to get to your predictions? Let's go. You start.
All right. Kevin Cabral brace. It's time. 2-0 LA Galaxy.
Is he coming in off the bench? Because I would imagine
sure.
that he's not starting there.
Off the bench. We had the comparisons to Emma Boateng and then the RSL killer, so I'm feeling it. Yeah, so I'm saying the Galaxy 2-0, being facetious with my my Cabral brace, but they should be able to walk away 2-0. I think the clean sheet. It's important to Jonathan Bond. It's important to them. I think they can get a clean sheet in RSL.
I'm going to say it's going to be like 1-0. It's not going to be as exciting. I think the Galaxy are going to do a lot to clog the middle of the field. I think that RSL is going to have trouble controlling the center of the field. I think that Chicharito finds some spaces and some open areas. As much of as and Greg talked about like the mid-low block that they could possibly play, they're not as good of a low block team as as Nashville is or Chicago is, right? And so there's going to be holes there. So overload that side. And again, if it sits for too long, Joveljic is going to come in and reprise that role. Greg knows where to put him now in terms of being in that half space on that sort of edge wing. Don't doubt for a second that he would go exactly back to that again. Go to that well again and give him, maybe the last 15 minutes if they need to sort of open something up, as long as Greg is comfortable with sort of where the Galaxy are at. I think in a perfect world...
feeling out the game, yeah.
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, the Galaxy score in the first 30 minutes. They get a 1-0 lead. They knock one in sort of on the other side of halftime, which gives them 2-0. You pull Chicha in the 75th minute, and you give Joveljic a chance to just run through for the last 15 minutes.
I was going to say, you're smoking a victory cigar in the 75th minute at that point.
Right. And that's what needs to start happening. The fact that Chicha is going to have a lot of minutes on his legs throughout the season means that Joveljic has to play for him. And that has to start happening. And so the Galaxy need to put themselves in positions to start managing Chicha's minutes. And the same thing goes with, Vasquez. The same thing goes with Costa. And the guys who you have to manage minutes, you're going to have to start doing it. Greg is aware of it. He already tipped it off in this. He says there's a lot of minutes coming, and he sees it and he knows it. And that Open Cup game is going to be part of that. It's going to be a B team. Absolutely a B team. It's going to be the guys who didn't play the game the couple days before whenever they go to the Open Cup game, and that's going to be okay. So,
And if you're someone who likes the underdogs and you want to see the Johnny Perez's and the Daniel Aguirre's, get their minutes, then that's what you want, because not only do you sub, Chicharito off for Dejan, but then you give those, younger players those opportunities with the bright future, get them the minutes in the games that count and that matter, and that, games that you have to grind out. That's the experience that you want those guys to get. You don't want them, of course, Open Cup, you're going to give them those minutes, but you want them with MLS competition in a difficult situation on the road. That's where you want to see those young guys play. And so I'm right on board there with you.
Making a Joveljic-like sub late into the game. It's Herb. Herb comes in with a $20.22 super chat. Sugar Daddy Herb back in. Glad to have you, Herb. Glad you could stop by a little bit. He says, "Hey Josh, hey Hammer, late to the show. How much of this goes to Hammer and his hype pregame video?" None of it. I mean, really, yeah.
I was going to say, all I saw is that I now have a budget. So I have a wardrobe budget for the next video.
For $20? Yeah. Well, YouTube takes a lot of that. So just remember that part of it. But yeah, we're gonna work on all that stuff. So, all right. That's where we sit. LA Galaxy heading off to RSL, a fairly standard week that gets busy whenever it goes to the next weekend, right? It's after the Austin game. It's the Austin game. It's the Open Cup game. It's home to Dallas. That's when things start to get busy. This is the last sort of normal week here.
And I believe there's a break between they play this weekend, and then there's a week break, and then they get Austin after that.
No, there's not.
No,
because it's May 11th is the game, and so really we have the 30th, right? And then they play Austin, and then
it'll go.
Yeah, I know, it's okay. It's just math.
Sorry,
you'll be okay. There is a break coming. It's in June,
end of April, and then beginning of May. I feel like I skipped days, but
Yeah, no, you're good.
It's not like I deal with math for a living. No big deal.
Yeah, it's not a big problem. All right, so that's where we sit. The LA Galaxy off to RSL this weekend. If you're going there, shout out to some of the Discord users. I know they're headed there, and there's some people who live in Salt Lake as well that are headed to that game as Galaxy fans. So that'll be fun. Everybody be safe if you're doing that, and we'll be back here on Monday. Hammer, anything else you want to talk about?
No, just find a viewing party. A big shout out to the supporters groups, Angel City Brigade, LA Riot Squad. I know Galaxy Outlaws. They've been doing a lot of fun events, with the fans. So if you're looking for a place to watch the game, no better place than to watch it with fellow like-minded LA Galaxy fans. So look out for those supporter groups for those viewing parties.
Darren says the Bond kit, the COG kit, still working on the COG kit. We're working on that. We're getting up some samples made up, so that's coming. The Bond kit was told May, June, so May is approaching. So I have a feeling it's towards the end of May.
Yeah, and I hope they have enough. Those are going to fly off because the kit is great. The goalie kit this season is great looking already, and then the fact that people want the Bond kit, those things are going to fly off the shelves.
I don't remember a kit, even with Jaime Pinedo. I do not remember a goalie kit wanting to fly off the shelves as much as it does with Jonathan Bond. So. Yeah. I am there for it. I am willing and ready. We'll have him on the show whenever it happens.
Let's just say I'm not kicking myself that I didn't jump on the David Bingham kit while they were available.
Yeah. Just let that one slide by, huh? Like a lot of the goals he was trying to stop.
There it is.
Just let it slide right by.
What a great way to finish.
Eric, tell people where they can find you. Let's go.
All right. As always, you can find me on Twitter at HammerEV. You can also find me on Instagram at Galaxy Profile. That's Galaxy PROFOUL.
All right, if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at JGuesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can find all of our podcasts. You can find all of our YouTube videos. All that fun stuff is right there, ready and willing for you. So give these videos a like, subscribe, tell your friends about them. Let's grow this community. Join our Discord server. We would always like to enjoy you to join in on the conversation. All right, for Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.